What's going on, YouTube? In today's video we're going to be building a river rock cutting board. Some of the things that I've already done in preparation for this video that I did not film is I took a couple scrap pieces of cherry that I had laying around and I cut them on the bandsaw to have a wavy edge on one side, and I faced those edges towards the middle of my epoxy form. You can see that I have my phone out in this section because I was actually filming an Instagram story while I was filming this video. So go ahead and look me up on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow me on those two forms of social media as well for some of the other projects that I do, because I don't film all of my projects for YouTube. For this project I'm using Total Boat epoxy and Black Diamond Pigmints. So at this point in the video we have let our blue epoxy cure for about 2 hours, and it's come to a point where it's solid enough to not let the rock sink into it, but it's still not fully cured, so we're not going to have to sand it before we apply our second coat of epoxy. So we're just going to randomly put our river rocks on top of the blue epoxy, making sure that we don't cover up all of the blue epoxy because we want it to shine through the rocks to get the effect that we're looking for. Then we will add 2 coats of clear epoxy on top of that. So we're going to have 3 epoxy pours in this cutting board. Once we get it out of the form, we're going to take it over to the planer to make sure everything is nice and flat. And if you choose to do it that way, just make sure that you don't plane it so thin that you get into the rocks with your planer, or you're definitely going to be replacing your planer blades. Now it's time to ease all of the edges with a round over bit. For sanding this cutting board, I went 80, 120, 180, 220, and 320 in the random orbit sander. After I completed all of those grits with the random orbit sander, I hand sanded at 1000 grit, and then I started my micro mesh pads at 1800. I will actually post a picture of the color chart of my micro mesh pads that I actually used in order to get the epoxy as clear as I did. This step really only needs to be done on the top of the cutting board where you want the clear epoxy so that you can see the rocks. You really don't want to skip this step because if you do, the epoxy can remain cloudy. You really want to take your time and make sure you go through all your grits properly on your micro mesh pads in order to get the crystal clear epoxy. this cutting board, I'm using my own recipe of board conditioner, which is just 2 parts of beeswax to 1 part of mineral oil. If you'd like to see a video on how to make it, just let me know in the comments section below. If you'd like to see some of my other projects, don't forget to look me up on Facebook and Instagram. I'll post links to those in the video description below. Thanks for watching.